I'm Francene Anderson with Vision Forward Coaching, personal and professional coaching. I am your educational chair for PWRG and the Walnut Creek chapter. And I'll be your moderator today for this webinar. Today, our presenters will share with you the importance of looking back at the ghost of business past last year, taking a good look at your business present, what the situation is right now and acknowledging that, and then taking that information forward into 2021 business future. I guess you could call this PWRG Business Carol. And it is said that until you make peace with the past year and clearly acknowledge the present, you're unable to successfully move on to your future goals and desires. So we can't just sweep, issues from last year under the rug. It's important to look at them. So we'll be hearing about that. Each presenter will leave you with a tool to assist you to move through these steps. So grab your pencil and paper, pen, and be able to catch that tool. Our presenters will take 15 minutes each, total of 45 minutes. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end. If you feel you need to leave in 45, we totally understand. The Q&A will be at the end. And as we go along, please put your questions into the chat and we'll pick them up at the end. We have 3 fabulous presenters and a fabulous facilitator at the chat. So let me introduce them. Wave when I introduce you, okay? First, we have Leah Bloom. She's founder and former president of the Oakland chapter. She is now their educational chair. Leah is co-owner of Home Watch Caregivers for Seniors in Oakland. Did you wave, Leah? She's the one with that beautiful sunflower there. Carolyn Lee will be second and is an executive coach, owner of Carolyn Lee Executive Coaching. Go figure. Carolyn is the education chair of the La Miranda chapter. And then we have Diane. Carolyn, did you wave? I'm kind of down, so good, thank you. Diane Covington is executive senior sales director with Mary Kay. Yes, she drives a pink Cadillac SUV and has for years, always a brand new one, and is the educational chair for the Concord chapter. Diane, did you wave? There you go. Okay, we have Katie Ferrari, who's a co-owner of O2 Marketing, or is it Zero to Marketing? And yeah, O2 Marketing and Design, a business that promotes brands and services with logo swag. Katie is the president of Pleasant Hill chapter and will be our chat room moderator and the moderator of the Q&A at the end. So be sure to put your questions in the chat as they come up. And then we have hosting today and an amazing person to set this up, Diane Labazio, and she's with Creative Solutions with the Walnut Creek chapter. She's the PWRG tech guru. Creative Solutions is brand strategy, and she's the world class design expert. So with that, we're so excited to start off. And we're starting off with Leah Bloom taking a look at our business past. Take it away, Leah.
Good morning, afternoon, happy 2020. Before I dive in, I invite all you beautiful women to get onto speaker view. Please feel free to ask questions as I go along. I think Katie's going to be fielding them as we go. And of course, I would be happy to address your questions offline. I'll just start my timer. So good morning. Welcome to the new year. I'm really excited that I was asked to talk about the past because I see the past as an opportunity to find inspiration and invaluable information, and it's all right under your nose. When we look at what the last year has taught us, and it really helps us moving forward with strategies. But looking backwards, I will forewarn you, it takes a strong dose of honesty and humility. It's not always fun to look back at what worked. And I will preface everything I'm saying by reassuring you that just because something turned out to feel like a failure, there's always fodder in there, some way that you can improve it. It's oftentimes your the operations, how you went about the project, not that the idea was so lousy, that you're on track. And I want to help you to improve your processes and strategies so that they can work better for you and your team. Now, today I'm going to weave in bits about my own personal journey, being in senior care. I'm going to weave in personal anecdotes as well as talk more broadly and generally, because I want to bring you into the fold and I want you to think as I talk about how does this apply to me. So I'll start by saying that, like everyone, COVID has been an opportunity for me to pause and press reset on my business. Because my business is with seniors and their families, I'm categorized as part of the healthcare system. And so I've been lucky enough to work continuously. I never had to stop working. However, just because it was legal for me to continue working, I noticed when I looked around me in March, in April, that a lot of people in my industry, my competitors, were taking a break. They had a visible fear of the unknown, as is the case still. There's a lot of confusion about what's the best way to prevent COVID in vulnerable populations. And Lord, I work with a vulnerable population. I have learned in the past year that about myself, paving new paths is an exciting prospect for me. I don't mind that. So in knowing that about myself, I had already, going into March 16th, I had already prepared and trained my employees with the use of PPE, personal protective equipment, and I already had a stockpile of it. The reason being is that we took a case that was like a hot potato for my industry. It was with someone who was highly infectious. He had TB, tuberculosis, and he was quarantined. And at the time, it was an opportunity for growth. And so we took it, and my caregivers rose to the occasion. And because of that, we kind of had a dry run with the use of PPE and with also working with people that were contagious. Additionally, of course, I always work with people that have cancer, and they are very vulnerable as well. So in retrospect, man, am I glad that we weren't risk adverse, and that we were willing to do what our competitors weren't. That gave me a month or two of go time where other people were sitting and navel gazing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I noticed that that was one of my strengths. Now I want to talk about how you can turn your past mistakes into information and inspiration. Mainly, when I talk about looking back, I'm talking about learning about yourself. What makes you tick, what motivates you, what keeps you going, and what lights you up. All three of our presenters today are going to talk about the importance of understanding your why. Your why means what underneath it all makes you want to get up in the morning and go to work, even if you don't want to get up and go to work. What is it that you love about what you do that circumvents any sort of lag in the day because there's something bigger that is leading you to do your work? For me, I know that it's people. I know that I'm going to feel better when I start to talk to my clients and their families. That's a big part of my why. Secondly, I highly recommend that if you don't have in place a system already, that you create a schedule for assessing yourself and formalize it. Unfortunately, I can't share what my form that I use with you because we're part of a franchise and it's proprietary. I know that's silly, but it's proprietary. I will say that we have bi-weekly team meetings during which we look at our billables this week as a measurement of how our quantitatively how we're doing, and we compare it to what was going on a year ago, and we ask ourselves why. But we also talk about qualitative measures. What sorts of challenges did we have a year ago today? And what sorts of challenges do we have today? Are we repeating the same frustrations, or are we learning from them? Making this time, creating this space for you and your team to be vulnerable and humble, I would say every other week or every week if you can swing it. It's often too much for us to get that all in, is invaluable. In addition to that, an annual assessment is worth its weight in gold. Again, it's worth more than any expensive consultant. Not that I am poo-pooing any business consultants in the room, but having this practice is really healthy, and I encourage it. And you'll learn a lot about yourself. During that time, I already said this. During that time, I want to make sure that you're measuring your qualifiable and quantifiable ways that you were successful. And now I want to use an example for you, and I'll wrap it up with this. So during COVID, I mentioned that we never really stopped going. And that was because we already had momentum. For us, it didn't feel like this giant pause button the way it did for a lot of other senior care agencies. But since I felt that there was a little bit of quietness in my industry, I took what was my daily practice of going out and visiting the assisted living facilities. I had gone out every day and visited the hospitals, the doctor's offices, anywhere where a potential client would touch. That was what my daily job was as a marketer in my business. So all of a sudden I had this big gap in my day, and I wanted to figure out how to fill it. So one thing that I learned how to do, that I could have learned all along, I took the opportunity to learn about digital marketing. We all have aspects of our business that we are going to do mañana. We all have skill sets that, for whatever fabulous excuse that we have, we just put it off. So my charge to you is to look for those quiet moments. For me, it was March and April, when I wasn't going out and pounding the pavement, to give yourself the bandwidth and the space to learn something new. Again, I encourage you to learn from your mistakes. That information is invaluable, and it's personal, and it's all yours. And I think it's one of the secrets to becoming a better entrepreneur. So thank you so much for your time. Ran about a minute short, but that's okay. I'm going to pass it back to Francene, and I hope you learned something from it. All right?
Great, Leah. Thank you. Take a second, hop in the corner. We so appreciate that. What I took away, and I think her tool is to really take the gear and be honest and vulnerable. It sounds like Brene Brown. You can't look at your past without really being honest and having a bit of humility about what went wrong. And then, she celebrated what she was doing right. And that's very, very important, to have that part of celebration and acknowledgement of what you're doing right. And she said, which I think is so key, is recognizing what you can learn. And then she said about learning it, which was digital marketing, which clearly was important to do. So each one of us maybe had the same situation. So she was able to really acknowledge her strengths and see where the gaps were. And then if she needed to learn something new, or in some cases, maybe you need to delegate and bring in somebody who needs to fill the gap with their expertise. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you took away that wonderful important part, which is honesty, humility, and then celebrating your strengths. All right. So that was visiting the past.